In an era defined by increasing competition, the Department of Defense is looking for ways to field technologies and capabilities faster. The Defense Innovation Unit was established in 2015 to do just that. And today we spoke with the DIU's acting director, Mike Madsen, to find out more about how the organization is getting solutions into the hands of our warfighters more quickly. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you're interested in being interviewed, please email summer@executivemosaic.com. Hello, and welcome to Executive Mosaic's video interview series. I'm Summer Myatt, and here to speak with me today is Mike Madsen, Acting Director of the Defense Innovation Unit. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Summer, thanks for having me. Very excited to talk about DIU and our annual report.
So Mike, I know the DIU was started as an experiment to field and scale commercial technologies at commercial speeds for the U.S. military. And today the DIU is breaking records with a new high of 17 transitions in fiscal year 2022 alone. Can you talk about the progress you've seen at DIU in the past year, and what are the driving factors behind it?
You bet. Thanks, Summer. Well, really, look, it's all about the people. DIU attracts members of all services of the Department of Defense, all branches, all components of all the services. We have government civilians, and we have commercial execs. And the common thread throughout all of them is that they all embrace that entrepreneurial spirit at heart. They're all looking to help solve challenging problems. And of course, the department represents some very challenging problem sets. But I think ultimately, because of that capability that we bring to bear, we've been able to show value both to our DoD partners as well as our commercial partners. We developed our defense engagement team a couple of years ago that's been able to really integrate in with our defense partners to fully understand the challenges that they're trying to solve, get away from a requirements document, and really distill it down to a simply stated problem statement. While our commercial engagement team is out in the commercial sector, fully understanding, if there's a commercial solution available, who the leading developers are, where the investment is taking place, to make sure that we invite those non-traditional companies to participate when we do push out a request for proposals. So our process really focuses on the rapid validation of the needs of our DoD partners, while we increase the transparency, increase the competition for our DoD partner. We also lower those barriers to entry to the defense marketplace and allow those non-traditional companies who historically have made a business decision not to participate, and we make it simpler and we make it more cost-effective to them to actually participate. One of the other great things that has happened in FY22 is that not only are we looking to scale across the department, the services and platforms, but we're also looking to leverage the entire economic buying power of the executive branch. And we're scaling now to DHS, Coast Guard, the cyber team that works with us in DHS. So it's really been a success as we look to scale not just across the department, but across the executive branch.
And Mike, as you mentioned earlier, the DIU recently released its annual report for FY 2022. Can you talk about some of the key highlights from that report?
You bet. And you mentioned one of them, and that was our record number of transitions. We transitioned 17 commercial solutions and got those leading edge commercial solutions into the hands of the men and women in uniform, which is fantastic for us. We've also published about 36 solicitations on our website, and we've received over 1,500 commercial proposals, on an average about 45 solutions per project that we've pushed out. We've awarded 81 new prototype contracts, and we've obligated about $204 million in prototype funds in FY22. Now, those are all great numbers for us. We're still influencing a very small number of the overall procurement dollars in the department. We want to continue to expand and show the value of leveraging commercial R&D for every tax dollar spent. But we're not sitting on our laurels. And in fact, we're continuing to move the goalpost. If you look back at DIU, we initially started as tech discovery, and we quickly proved out the concept. So then we moved the goalpost and focused on transition to increase our transition. And our transition rate is about 50%, which is pretty good. But I've challenged the team to push that a little bit higher to make sure we're transitioning that technology. But even more than that, we've moved the goalpost one more time where we're looking at what is our adoption rate to make sure on those transitions, are we adopting it as widely as we think we can? Is there still potential to do that? So we're continuing to drive that impact forward, to move the goalpost and continue to reach out and strive and drive forward, all towards the end of providing impact to our DoD partner, getting the technology to men and women in uniform, but also to be a sophisticated partner to our commercial ecosystem and show a path towards recurring revenue in the department as we grow that national security innovation base.
So, Mike, the DIU's model aims to move from problem identification to prototype contract award in 60 to 90 days versus the 18 months that it typically takes in the traditional DoD contracting process. What are your thoughts on acquisition reform in the government contracting sector, and how do you think the DoD can move to a faster procurement model?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and it's one that we have to continue to get after. As you talked about, our goal is 60 to 90 days for a prototype contract award. We're running about 140 days right now, looking to bring on some more resources. Our LIMFAC is contracting officers and agreements officers, so we're looking to bring on. But still, 140 days is light years ahead of some traditional contracting, so we're going to continue to drive that forward. But look, I think when we talk about acquisition reform, we have to put it in the larger context of the procurement system. Acquisition is one piece of it. We also have funding and budgeting. And then the third leg to that stool, if you think of it that way, is requirements. We've seen a lot of acquisition reform recently. DIU was an output of that. And we have a lot of statutes and authorities that we can use. We need to continue to use those effectively for the acquisition piece of it. We saw some energy around funding reform. Congress authorized the stand-up of a Planning, Programming, Budgeting, and Execution, PPBE, Reform Commission that we saw last year. So that has stood up, and they're going to look at ways to reform that process, which is a, 60, 70-year-old process. But one thing that we have not really gotten after yet is addressing the requirements piece of that. And I think that's going to be critically important if we want to continue to go faster, and that is to find ways to more accurately describe to our industry partners what we really want to buy. When you look at the critical technology areas, the 14 critical technology areas, 11 of them are undergoing a greater rate of change in the commercial sector. So, yeah, we need to tell industry, the specifics on a aircraft carrier submarine, but for some of those other things that the commercial sector has solved, we don't need to tell them how to do that. We just need to tell them the problem we're trying to solve and let them help us solve that. So I think we have a little ways to go in the requirements piece of that in the context of being able to accurately describe to the commercial sector what we need.
Can you talk about where you're seeing the highest demand and what do you think is driving that demand?
You bet. So DIU is centered around 6 tech focus areas, as you mentioned: AI/ML, autonomy, human systems, commercial space, cybersecurity, and our newest portfolio, which is energy. And what I found is that AI and cybersecurity really underpin almost all of the other ones. Autonomy, for example, we are using AI elements, and we want a cybersecure platform when we're looking at autonomous systems. So there's a lot of overplay there with AI and cyber. So that's always going to be critically important to everything that we come up with. We're going to continue to see activity in our autonomy portfolio, our commercial space, as well as human systems, especially if you consider the challenges of adversarial activity in the Indo-PACOM area of responsibility, thinking about the tyranny of distance, tyranny of time, etc. Autonomy, space, and human system is going to help with those challenges related to contested logistics, for example, or real-time situational awareness into remote areas now with the commercial overhead imagery that's available. And improving the human performance, again, especially operating in that vast AOR. But I think our area that we're going to see the most growth is in our energy portfolio. There are incredible advancements taking place in operational energy, installation energy. When you think about batteries, they're much, much smaller, much longer lasting now in the commercial sector. They're moldable, so you can mold them to the human form, so you can have wearable batteries for, if you think of a soldier with all the things that need powered. And so it's, and in battery storage, for example, battery or power generation and power storage are all undergoing great rates of change. So I think we're going to continue to see incredible growth and energy, pardon the pun, in our energy portfolio going forward.
Mike, the peer and near-peer competition is heating up with challengers like China and Russia. If you could narrow it down, what do you think are the top 3 things we need to be focusing on in the near term in order to ultimately outpace these competitors?
Well, look, the serial entrepreneurship of the United States is really what put us in a leadership position decades ago. And so this is not new. So we need to get back to that rich public-private partnership that really birthed the tech ecosystem generations ago, and really get back and rebuild that. And then fully embrace a fast follower strategy. And what I mean by that, by the way, we were thrilled to see a fast follower strategy outlined in the 2022 National Defense Strategy. DIU is one of the first DoD entities that was really advocating for this strategy, which is to evaluate those technologies in the commercial sector. And for the ones that are undergoing the greatest rate of change, leverage that rate of change, leverage that development, leverage the R&D costs, and remain a first adopter for those that we have to, things like hypersonics, directed energy, but be a fast follower with our commercial partners in those areas that they are leading, and find ways to transmit our needs to them much easier. And so that kind of brings me then to my next point on what we also need to do, and I mentioned it before, and that is we need to continue to get better at transmitting our needs to industry and be able to tell them the problems, work closely with them on the problems that we're trying to solve. I'll use a quick example of a project we took on, was called the Short Range Reconnaissance. It was developing a drone, a UAS, unmanned aerial system, for use at the squad level, so an off-the-shelf drone. It took the department about 6 years and 60 pages to describe what was needed in a UAS for deployment with infantry men and women. I mean, you and I could probably drum something up right here in about 15, 20 minutes and probably not take 60 pages. Maybe an oversimplification, but my point is that the commercial sector had solved that. And so instead of giving them a 60-page document overly describing it, let's just tell them what we want and what we need, and let those imaginative minds do it. Now, it's going to be different for some of those other bespoke capabilities that I talked about, that we'll have to rely on that requirements process for that. So that's what I'm seeing. Some of our adversaries, one in particular, has a program called Civ-Mil Fusion, where it is very intentional. All commercial property is immediately made available to the PLA. We don't want that. We want to get the commercial tech sector to work with us. We just need to make it easier for them to do that.
Going back to getting capabilities into the hands of our warfighters more quickly, where are you seeing the most exciting opportunities to deliver these better capabilities to warfighters, and how are you harnessing these opportunities?
Well, we're always looking, as I mentioned, to transition, and increasingly we're looking at scaling potential to make sure we're maximizing that scaling potential. So one of the initiatives that we have taken on for FY23 is what we're calling a commercial integration initiative. And that is to become involved much earlier in a lot of the strategy development elements. So when services are developing their acquisition strategy, or looking at a portfolio reviews from an enterprise perspective, we want to become involved much earlier in those processes, so that we are able to have a seat at the table and clearly articulate what the real state of the art of the commercial technology and commercial sector is, with the knowledge that we have from our commercial engagement team that's immersed in that ecosystem. So that's really one of the ways we're looking at doing it. And it's quite exciting when you think about being involved much earlier in the process and the benefits on the back end when we transition that technology out, and the huge scaling potential that we have there.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for all the work you do at the DIU and for your time speaking with us today.
Thank you, Summer. I really appreciate it.